Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Firstly and foremostly, I'm going to be getting a new camera. I realize this camera is acting up a bit. I'm not happy with it because though it is better than the previous camera, I'm not being ungrateful here. It isn't reacting in a manner that I prefer, and you may see the camera sort of flashing in and out, changing from light to dark rather suddenly. It's just not doing what I had hoped. So I am currently working on getting a better means of streaming information live and pre-record. So we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I thank you for your patience. What is this video about? Well, as you've seen in the title, this is what happened during the lockdown here for our household. And I just want to start right from the very beginning. Shocker for me was how long it was before I could get around to cleaning the house. Now, if you've been following my channel, you would know that I do some adulting videos, how to be an adult, how to get through, the transition of teenhood, young adult into what? Wait, having a job, is that part of being an adult? Trying to figure out your way in the world. Well, you can never be fully prepared, I don't think. And prime example was what happened here during the lockdown. I honestly believe we were going to be prepared because we had a stockpile of things that would be necessary should a disaster come along. And the reason why we were already prepared anyway is because this area is prone to cyclones. So we had what we needed should a cyclone come along, and we could bug out as well. So that wasn't an issue. But there were other things that happened that we were completely unprepared for, and I want to cover some of what that was so you don't feel so alone. One of the things that really surprised me was, firstly, the pets. I had already been quite ill the end of December 2019 on into January. And I was definitely sick for a total of 20 days, but it was more like a good 2 months before I could get around to actually cleaning the house again because of how ill I had been. And yeah, so by the time I got around to actually being able to clean again, the alpha of the household wound up having to work from home. Now, normally this wouldn't be a big issue, except that my responsibilities are to clean the inside of the house. Alpha's responsibilities are outside. And there's reasons for that. And I'll get into that a little bit later on. So, I hadn't been able to clean the house in a while because I had been so very ill, and yes, it was a respiratory illness. So I knew that if I started stirring up, say for example, cat dander and dog hair, I would be doing myself a major disservice. But because Alpha had a full-time job, still has that full-time job, thank you, it meant that he was away for a good 10 hours every day. So he didn't have time to see to that because he was also doing gardening and setting up an online business. So I couldn't expect him to do this. So I thought, okay, well, as soon as I feel well enough and I feel that it is safe enough, I will get back to my regularly scheduled program. Well, my regularly scheduled program got mucked with when Alpha had to work from home. His office wound up in the house, not in a shed out somewhere elsewise. No, it was here in the house, and that meant that I couldn't clean the house. And when I say I couldn't clean the house, I couldn't even put laundry down the laundry chute because his office is in the same room as the laundry chute. And every time I would even pick up something to put in there, he would start coughing, clearing his throat. Um, he'd complain that his eyes were itchy and burning. He wouldn't even really be aware of what I was doing because he would be focused on work. You see, he's part of a managing crew. And in his management position, he has to sometimes micromanage. And you know yourself, do micromanaging, you're not going to be able to focus on anything else around. I mean, almost everybody under the sun has micromanaged something at some point. So I'm just going to assume that you've been in that position before. So bear with me there. So, there's a lot that he has to keep track of, and because he had just started working from home, it meant that there were a lot of programs that he was having to familiarize himself with that he had not even heard of before then. So there was a lot of education that was going on, and I didn't want to be a distraction. I also didn't want to be making him sick. So I thought, okay, well, maybe one of these days when I know he's got work outside the house as a manager who has to go and talk to people in person, that might be a better time to do some of this. So I tried that, but I didn't let the house air out in enough time, and he still wound up sick. And then I thought, you know what, maybe it's psychosomatics. Maybe the only reason he's getting sick is because he knows, somewhere in the back of his head, he knows he's allergic to cats. And we have cats in the house, so maybe if he doesn't know that I've been cleaning and stirring up this stuff, he won't be sick. So I try to pull a sneaky, and I don't do anything in any area that I know he can see. And so I clean areas that he didn't look at. And he comes home, he's been gone for like a couple of hours, and he winds up sick anyway, like within 5 minutes. I'm thinking, okay, this is not just psychosomatic. This is definitely a real problem. So I couldn't clean the house because there was nowhere else for him to have his office. And I started falling apart at the seams because not only was I not able to clean, but because I hadn't been cleaning because I'd been sick, there was all this stuff that was just kind of sitting on top of everything else. Like, for example, I wiped down this table with a wet cloth last night, and already I can feel crunchies of dust, and it's 3 p.m. the next day. I mean, that's the sort of environment I live in. The main drag out here, we end up with black stuff all over the plastic drapes that keep the rain off of the front veranda, and it's just nasty. It's gross. I can set a cup on a table out at the big property for a few days and not move it, and then have the same amount of dust I've got on this tabletop, and it's outside. Go figure, right? So, yeah, I'm excited about, moving out to the big property. That will eventually come to fruition. This I know. It's just going to take some time. But getting back onto the subject here, I could not believe the intensity with which this situation had risen, because I thought I had everything under control. I thought everything would be okay, and then he ends up sick all the time because I'm just trying to clean the house. And that leads me to the next situation. So I'll pause this one here, watch for part 2.